Yakima County Prosecutor Joe Brusic. Joe, welcome.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good to
As
see
always,
you.
it's an honor and privilege to be with you.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for coming in. Always appreciate it, man. We know that you have lots of notes over there because you have things you want to talk about, and so do we. So we'll start with our notes first.
Absolutely.
Hey, well, there's just been a lot of COVID-19 has certainly impacted your job. I guess that's where we're gonna and the lack of jury trials, and so I guess get us up to date. What's going on with our courts and our jails, and when are we going to get back to normal?
Well, you bring up the topic du jour. I mean, obviously, since mid-March, we've all been essentially shut down on a number of levels, but it really is a topic. And every morning when I listen to you coming into work, it's all over the place when you broadcast, and it's affected us amazingly hard in that sense. We haven't had any jury trials since mid-March or so, and we do have a backlog. We don't have a backlog in terms of cases that we are charging on the Yakima County Prosecutor's Office. We're charging them out. However, we're not pumping them into the system. That is going to start in really September. And kind of to cut to the chase, in terms of jury trials in Superior Court, the Superior Court order is going to end essentially September 1st, or essentially say we're going to kind of try to get back to reality and normalcy in September. And the goal is to have a number of jury trials. First jury trial date in Superior Court in Yakima County will be September 14th. Possibly could be the 8th, but that's the day after Labor Day, so probably doubtful. But the 14th and after that probably will be good to go. And we're planning accordingly for jury trials. In district court that handles misdemeanors and gross misdemeanors, in the last meeting that we had, we discussed realistically probably the first district court trial in October. And really, I mean, if you think about it, COVID has affected the court system as much or more than any other entity within our society. Because a jury trial is one of the most social situations that we can have. You're bringing a tremendous amount of jurors in, especially for, say, a Class A offense, a murder case. You may have 100 to 125 people from all walks of life up and down the valley, and they all come together through their various experiences to potentially sit on being one of the 12, along with several alternates, to be in a very social situation. And you have a great deal of touching of exhibits. You have close contacts with witnesses and
Joe,
jurors.
I know where you're
incredible.
going here. I know. You see, you're just giving everybody answers to people who don't want to be on jury to say.
Well, let me cover
right,
that, because one of the things I definitely wanted to get out this right now is that's one of the biggest issues we're going to face.
I mean, even if I don't have time or if I don't want to, I'm gonna go right to. I mean, I'm not personally, but I mean, I'm thinking, it's the first excuse I'm gonna use. Like, no way, my wife and I are very concerned about COVID. Thank you.
The first summons that went out for beginning August 31st for a 2-week period of time, and there was already on social media people saying that they're not coming in. I want everybody to know out there in Yakima County that we are going to make it as safe as reasonably possible. One thing that we're doing for Superior Court that we're putting into effect, we toured the Sun Dome. We're most likely going to bring jurors to the Sun Dome to pick them, and then once they are picked, move them back to the courthouse. So if we have a murder trial, we have a number of these waiting to go. Very realistically could happen in September, October. Very realistically, we're going to need 100 to 125 jurors, or for a Class A sexual assault case, we want to make sure that there is, masking, there's social distancing, which is appropriate. We want to make sure that we protect everybody who comes in on those summons. Traditionally, the amount of jurors that respond and show up for their summons for jury duty in Yakima County is about 17%.
17%.
Yeah, man. And they're actually when
so now it's going to be like 5%, right?
I mean, we need jurors.
Yeah.
That's our system, man. That's our justice.
You're right.
It's the only way that we're going to potentially provide that chance for defendant who we've charged with a crime to have us be able to prove them guilty in terms of a jury, or that they are then acquitted, or there is something else in between. But a jury is a necessity within our system. Without it, we fail.
So, I mean, have you thought about Zoom juries?
No, that has been floated. Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
But that, the one thing that is going to be very clear through
Crazy.
this whole process is errors, procedural error especially. You've got speedy trial issues. You've got procedural error within the court system leading up to a trial. You have the trial itself. You're going to have appellate issues for years. We're going to feel the effects of this for years. And there's going to be convictions that are going to be probably overturned because of procedural errors throughout the counties in the state of Washington.
Wow.
And it's a real problem, and we're very concerned about it as prosecutors.
KIT News Time 7:51, talking to Yakima County Prosecutor Joe Brusic. Joe, in the meantime, as we await for the courts to open, we got a lot of misdemeanor crimes that are happening, and people aren't being arrested. Really, no. It seems like there's just no accountability right now on the street. A lot of low-level, misdemeanor crime seems to be going unnoticed.
We've got a Yakima County jail that I believe Ed Campbell, our director, has done a great job along with all of the staff in trying to, maneuver back and forth through COVID, which is, we all know that prisons and detention facilities have been hard hit throughout the county, not just the county, but the country. And the reality is that we went from about 920 inmates at the Yakima County Jail, with a fair number, 300 or 400 of those from contracts with other jurisdictions in the first part of March, to being down around 400 to 425 now. So we cut the jail population in Yakima County Department of Corrections by about half. Some of those were by contracts where we stopped getting individuals, so it's not like this was a free-for-all where the jail and the court system. Remember, and it's not the jail or the prosecutors that release, it's the courts that make those final decisions. That's one of their discretionary decision-making processes. And the reality is, when we went through this process, we determined those most compromised and those that should possibly plead out to some kind of crime, but also those that should be released for whatever reason involving COVID issues. Right now, the jail really is not taking misdemeanors.
Yeah, so what's going on? I mean, how can we...
Well, we have to prioritize. We've got, we have a limited ability within the jail to be able to take people in. And like I said, we've got plenty of felony behavior in Yakima County, as everybody knows, to deal with this and to be incarcerated. The city of Yakima Jail houses about 70 people. And right now, I think they've got anywhere from 15 to 20 residing in their city jail right now. The situation is this. We have to prioritize. When this COVID hit all of us, in all of our walks of life, especially the criminal justice system, we had to make certain decisions to obviously protect people's health, inmates as well as the jail support staff. Everybody needs to be protected in that regard, and we have a lawful duty to protect those inmates that we take into custody from all law enforcement agencies. And if we're not careful, if we violate their rights, if we don't provide them that safety, we're potentially looking at liability issues. So we have to formalize a process, which we did, and we did the very best we could. And I think we effectuated safety to the best of our ability under a pandemic that we haven't experienced in any of our lifetimes. And that's really, kind of a bottom line, is we're doing the very best we can.
You're still telling police officers to hold off on, low-level crime, right?
Well, all I ask is it's not my decision to arrest. As any one of us as prosecutors know, I don't tell, as Yakima County prosecutor, any officer to arrest somebody. That is their decision and within their discretion. I stand
corrected.
Well, I can talk to them about what probable cause is on a case, and then they make a decision to arrest. But they make a decision. So when I wrote my letter to all the law enforcement agencies, I was beseeching them to use discretion to have people booked in those certain types of crimes, including misdemeanors. It doesn't mean that they may not get those individuals actually booked and put into custody. It just means that they please use more discretion. Use your discretion, which officers and law enforcement in general use every day in making their decisions. And they have the ability to do that both lawfully and really what is best for the criminal justice system.
Well, I guess the bottom line in terms of our courts and getting more people to be in jail for misdemeanor crimes or at least cited for misdemeanor crimes, I guess that's all it depends on when the COVID goes away, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Well,
and things start to get back to normal, I guess, next month. But that's a month too late for you in terms of the trial. You really wanted these jury trials to start, in August, right?
Well, my position is that, jury trials really force people to make decisions. Both prosecutors and defense counsel, they force cases to come to the head of the court system. Without trials and without the threat of that finding of guilt or not guilty, defendants, defense counsel, prosecutors were kind of stalemated. There's not a lot of activity, or at least the way that it should go, to resolve these cases. We've got to resolve cases.
Well, the pressure of, hey, you've got a trial coming up in 3 weeks. What do you want to do, kind of thing.
Exactly.
It's no longer there, right, for
it hasn't
for the defendants, and yeah. So I suppose there's not a lot of contact happening between defense attorneys and defendants because they don't feel any need to contact them, right? Because there's nothing happening.
Lance, you raise probably one of the most important issues that we've had to deal with in the last 6 months. Contact between defense counsel and defendants, contacts the defendant with the court, the ability to communicate has been affected to such a degree that when we get back into this, a lot of the defendants are appearing by Zoom, as our defense counsel and prosecutors. We're trying to do it remotely. It actually is working pretty darn good. And the court system has been excellent in trying to move this along, using virtual capabilities. And I think it's working as well as it reasonably could.
Right.
But the problem is that without defendants appearing, without their signatures, without their agreement to return to court on a certain day, we're going to have sometimes very strongly the inability to ask for bench warrants.
Bench warrants, yeah.
And that's an important consideration. So we are going, as a prosecutor's office, going to be aggressive about getting summons out. We want to get defendants on the hook, so if they don't show, I expect every defendant to come to court and to communicate with their defense counsel as often as possible, so we can look at resolution and getting these cases resolved or not, meaning going to trial.
Are we to the point where a guarantee of speedy trial is in jeopardy? I mean, as things stretch out, or does COVID sort of cancel that concern?
Well, that's once again, that's probably one of the biggest issues as well, and it goes all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court of the state of Washington has issued three orders, and they've given us a time period which is fairly complicated in our analysis of speedy trial. But we believe that the new commencement period is going to be September 1st. And during that period of time, up through that period of time, COVID is going to win the day, most likely even on appeals. But that's an assumption. We don't know that, especially with our Supreme Court and the way that they want to protect, obviously, defendants' rights. We're in a position where we're not really sure how they're ultimately going to rule. But you raise a great question. I mean, basically, we are looking at September, October as critical months to get them back in court on the record, deal with them directly. And then try to get them tried so we don't have any speedy trial issues. We don't want appellate error.
Well,
when we get a conviction, we want it to stick.
And even appeals based on my right to a reasonable defense was complicated and compromised by my inability to talk to my attorneys like I wanted to and all this other stuff. I mean, there's potential for appeals just based on the world that we're living in, right?
Absolutely. It's a huge issue. One, defense counsel anymore generally want to speak with the witnesses and with our victims in cases directly. Well, COVID has affected that. Well, they don't want to telephonically talk to them. They want to talk to them in person to size them up as witnesses and make a decision. And we can't really do that right now.